take podcasts. It's the only podcast on earth that is a complete shit show. I am Tersh and I am solo today, but I do have a very special guest with me, the creator of the Dick Show Christmas album. It is the Grand Wazoo. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good.
It's been a while.
I'm doing good tonight.
I've been meaning to get you on the show since the start of the year, but this is like the first time we've both been able to do it. So it's great to have you on the show to talk about all the things, all the cool stuff you've been doing recently, and all the stuff you're going to be doing in the future. So let's put some things in perspective. The way I know you is that you went on to the Dick Show to talked about creating a small Christmas album. Let's just say that Christmas album for the Dick Show. You know, talking about using all the references from the Dick Show and all that sort of stuff, and it turned in with lots of Frank Zappa type of influences, and it turned into this absolute monster. Was it 44 track from memory?
It was a 41 track.
41 track. My apologies. This thing, good. And I reached out to you and I said, hey, this sounds cool. If you ever need some guitar tracks, especially some Frank Zappa sort of sounding stuff, happy to provide with you whatever you needed. And I think it was just the last track on the album, the Watermelon Easter Hay, I got to play on, which is awesome and sounds amazing. But before we talk about that, let's just start about the beginning of your music career. How did you start music? You know, how were you first introduced to music, and you know, when did you decide to take up music as a hobby?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call it a music career. Well, but you know, I've been taking up music for a very long time. I was in a school band ever since I was in elementary school, and I did that for about 10 years. I used to switch between the clarinet and the bass clarinet, and I used to do a bunch of stuff in school choir. And a lot of that stuff. I also play guitar on the side. And, you know, mostly I was just into, like, just rock music, a lot of alt rock. I was really into Weezer, I remember, and all those alt bands. And then when I was about 19 is when I discovered Frank Zappa, and that pretty much changed my perspective on music. It just completely changed my outlook on music, on what it can be, on the potential of music, and that introduced me, that made me interested in classical music, like the music of Stravinsky and Ives and so on and so forth.
It's amazing what happens when you start listening to Frank Zappa. I was lucky enough to be introduced to it via a BBC documentary called Classic Albums, and they went through both the album Apostrophe and Overnight Sensation, because they were sort of recorded basically at the same time with the same band and all that sort of stuff. And they got, you know, George Duke was George Duke was there talking about the record, and Ruth Underwood obviously, and then Dweezil was on there talking about the records. That's how I was introduced to it. But it does really change your perspective of music and how you play it, especially as a guitar player, which is what I am.
Oh yeah. One thing I would like to comment on, I think I mentioned this briefly on the Dick Show. I don't know if this was much interest to any of the Dick Show audience, but you know what I love about, you know, discovering Frank and really getting to his guitar playing, I would study his guitar solos and try to learn them. And what was very interesting about Frank is the way he approached rhythm. Like, he would talk about playing 17 in the space of 14, or maybe it was 14 in the space of 17, or sometimes I would catch him playing like 5 notes in the space of 2 beats, and doing these really odd times and these odd rhythms, and just really just like expanding just what you could do with the notes that you're playing, really.
Yeah, it was obviously very an amazing melody creator as well, and that's all the way through his. But the way he does, you're absolutely right. The rhythmic aspect of his not only his music creation, but his guitar playing, especially within that solo section. You're right. You know, and for people that aren't musicians out there listening, you know, it's like saying you're trying to count. You know, someone's counting to 4, and you're trying to count to 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever number. in the same space, and that those subdivisions is what makes that his guitar playing or playing those type of notes very interesting.
And also one thing I find very interesting is that he said that his guitar playing was very speech influenced. So he wants his guitar, he wants to play it like as though he's speaking, to be to be as fluent as playing the guitar like as he is, just fluid, he's just talking through the instrument. If that makes any sense.
It does, because I don't know if this is how you approach things sometimes, but when I was doing all my music training and with guitar lessons and teachers and stuff like that, when learning improvisation, one of the big things that I was taught was to create melody lines, or try to do phrasing in the space of a breath, because that way it's very easy for the listener to join in. And also it makes it a little, it breaks up, instead of being Yngwie Malmsteen and playing consistently,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no. It gives you some breathing space and allows you to create dynamic phrases rather than, 100 million notes in a space of a minute.
Yeah. I know what you mean. How I learned to improvise, I actually really didn't go to... I never went to music school or anything. I just learned to improvise just playing guitar on my back porch. So a lot of times, I remember in high school a lot, I would just stay up till 3 a.m. sometimes, just with my acoustic guitar, just kind of just messing around with pentonic scales. I learned how to do the major and minor, but I just kind of do that for sometimes hours on end, and I just got really good at it somehow. And it took years to really find discipline to it, but yeah, that's the foundation to, that's a bit of a core to of my guitar playing.
Yeah. So you come out of high school. You're 19. You learned about Frank Zappa. What did you do then? Were you starting to record and write music at that age?
Well, I started recording and writing music I would say about 19, maybe 20 years old. I have this alt account under the name Oreo Sama. I was in a bit of a phase when I first made that account. But anyway, that's the account I made, and I used to make parody songs about there's this little Discord community I came across. It's a very nerdy Discord community. It's some sort of it's this weird role-playing server I found.
Yep.
Some guy mentioned it on a podcast. I checked it out. It's just it's called Rowdy Fuckers Cop Killers. It's like these two rival gangs, and they pretend to fight each other. They have these fake contests and this whole art and this whole wiki page. Just very weird. This oddly dedicated server, and there's a bunch of artists just making up lore, and there's. Yeah. It was a very strange and unique thing. And I hit up this one guy, and we started to someone who's not some guy, he goes by the name Sweet Mouse. So we did a couple of parody albums. We did one that was a Mountain Goats parody album, the other that was a Tenacious D and a Zappa parody album. You can check it out on the Oreo Sama SoundCloud. Yeah, that's when I first started writing music, and then there's some interesting episodes in between then where I kind of turned to my audience and kind of played a kind of a heel character where I started insulting the audience like kind of a pro wrestler, and everyone hated it. Everyone lost their minds. They thought I was just gone for it. I was a wreck. Oh man, fuck this guy. Fuck Oreo. He's such a piece of shit.
Was this is this in a live setting, or is this in a just releasing tracks, posting them in the Discord and
I'm just posting it in the Discord. Yeah, this isn't a live setting. If this was live, I'd probably get kicked out of the venue and never played again if I tried pulling this shit off in person. Maybe someone like Andy Kaufman could get away with it, but I don't know if I could.
Yeah.
But anyway, that charade goes on for 4 or 5 months. That's when I started writing more avant-garde music, when I actually started putting in shades of Bartok and Stravinsky and Zappa, of course, more classical stuff, and mixing that in with very horrible wrestling promos. Very horrible wrestling promos. At the time, it was just I was just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. Technically, that's still true, but I'm much more refined at this thing. I'm much more refined with my experiments. But at the time, a lot of it is, even though a lot of it is very cringy, and it still is, but the overall art of what I was going through. I mean, the overall thing was good, I believe, and I just grew from it. And the people who stuck around all these years, I found out those were my real friends, the ones who stuck around and kind of got the thing. And even if I did burn some bridges along the way, I would say it was worth it, just for the music and the experience. Even though the experience wasn't always pleasant, I think the experience was worthwhile. And
anything that allows you to become a little bit creative and share it with an audience, whether they hate it or love it. I think that's the most exciting part about showing your art to people, because that positive or negative reaction that they get, like you said, you're either going to find a whole bunch of fans or you're going to piss a whole bunch of people off. But those people that are your fans love the fact that you're pissing people off, and it's been across music, ever since the beginning of music. I mean, Elvis was hated by a whole bunch of people. Frank Zappa was, the Beatles. I guess the Beatles probably weren't.
I don't know if I can be compared to Elvis, but I get your point.
Yeah, exactly right. So how did you come up with the idea? I don't know if we're skipping a whole bunch of stuff, but how did you? What made you go, I'm gonna make a Dick Show Christmas album?
Okay, so this was about the middle of 2020. And it was around during the summer of 2020. I want to say July or August. I kind of had it back in my head. I just kind of thought, what if I made a Dick Show Christmas album? Nah, probably not. That's a stupid idea. Well, maybe I'll write maybe a song or two. Well, no big deal. And then I decided, maybe we'll stretch it to 30 minutes, and it just turned into a monster. And I think one of the biggest inspirations of this horrible thing being erected out of something so innocent was a coworker of mine who I just happened to find out was a Sonic the Hedgehog voice impersonator. Out of all things he could have been.
That's a very specific niche.
Yes. He just happened to voice Sonic the Hedgehog really, really, really well. And despite that and other voices, he did an even better Filthy Frank. And it was scary. It was scary. Like, you have a bunch of people on YouTube who try to imitate Filthy Frank, including that Filthy Frank 2 guy who's popular.
Yeah.
But he's a spot on, this guy I worked with is a spot on Filthy Frank, and it's kind of scary how good this guy is. He's just excellent. Like, I remember on the spot, like, I needed him to do Keemstar, PewDiePie, all these voice impressions, and he would do, it's not always spot on, but he always just comes out with a character. Even if it's not exactly the character that, he doesn't exactly sound like Ethan Ralph on the thing, but he comes out with a character that that I could get behind and get inspired by.
And with all of, let's talk about, we'll just talk about the introduction, the first piece on the album, the introduction there. I mean, there's so much, the composition style, obviously you integrated the Dick Show theme and all that sort of stuff, but the composition style is super dense with heaps of instruments. I mean, I do hear your woodwind playing on some of those tracks here and there. Guitar playing, bass, drums, this and that. Is that all? I mean, is that all you? Is that some of the programmed, or is that something like some MIDI stuff? Talk me through that process of developing that, just the initial track on the album.
Well, we could just talk about just this one single track, because it could be a bit of a process and it varies. But for that one specific track, like how I compose most of my music, it starts off with me just banging on the piano and coming up with melodies and writing it down on manuscript paper, kind of like how old school composers do it, or just traditional composers do it. They just come up with melodies on the piano and they write it down in musical notation. And actually, an interesting fact. I actually don't write any key signatures, so I just write in sharps and flats as I go. I can still do something like in the key of A or C sharp, but I'll just write in the accidentals. But anyway, so for that track, I wrote out all the parts in musical notation. It must have taken me a week or two to do so, maybe more, maybe less. And then afterwards, I don't remember what order I did this, but I believe I recorded a metronome track. I recorded that onto Audacity, and because of the way Audacity is, I don't know how it's like on other musical softwares, but I actually have to record the metronome going off, and then I take the sound, like the little wave for each of the clicks, and subdivide it into 4 so I could throw in like eighth notes and 16th. Sometimes into 5, so I could do 5 tuplets or 7 tuplets. But after I do the metronome track, I believe I might have done the instrumentals. I played the guitars on it. The bass was played. The piano parts were played. And a lot of the instruments, like all the percussions, were sampled off of live percussion or off of a live drum set. I'll take a drum tutorial of, say, like a snare drum, how to play a snare drum, and I'll take the snare drum from that and I'll use that as a snare drum. And I have like 3 or 4 snares I use. And I have that for a cymbal. Like I have 3 or 4 cymbals I took from like 3 separate tutorial videos, or some from the same tutorial, and I sampled them.
Just sampling things that you like the sound of to get like, to this song, we're using a different snare, different cymbals, just to get a different tonal basis of the kit.
Yeah, I'm just trying to form a drum kit, and I want it to sound realistic. Like what I was suggested was just to go to like just download a drum sample from like sometimes there's like a drum beat already laid out, like a hip hop drum sample or something like that, but I want to create my own drum beat. So I just take snare from this video, crash from this, and I build that into my own drum set, and I build my own rhythms out of that. So that's how I came up with the drum parts. And of course I extend it to like the timpanis and the gongs and all the other percussion and the triangles. And for the woodwinds, some of that is me on the clarinet. I used to play in school band. I have a lot of experience on the clarinet.
Yep.
And some of it is from my keyboard. It has brass features. It has woodwind features. I play a lot of the flute. And some of the brass and some of the woodwinds, like the saxophone parts, the horrible sounding sax part, it kind of fits, but it's very dissident. That's from a sax tutorial video. Like I have, and I would take like just a long note, a sustained note, and I would kind of do it like I would do the drum parts. I would kind of just subdivide it into whatever I need, to eighth notes and quarter notes, and I'd pitch shift it, and I'd make sure it's in tune. This eventually got very tedious, so I just stuck with the keyboard and just would rather just play the brass instruments on the keyboard and record it over the keyboard than just that. But that's how that original piece was made. So a lot of the instruments were played live. A lot of it was programmed from live instruments. And yeah, there you have it for that specific piece.
Yep.
Oh yeah, and also there's also some sound design in there I threw in there, especially going into the piano part. You can kind of hear it fading out, kind of out to the corners of the ears. And there's a lot of experimentation with sound design throughout the entire project.
It's such a big, like I said, it's one of those things, such a big soundscape. It's got, like, it does have everything from, like, I could hear the live, like, live woodwinds, and then live guitars, and then, I felt like sometimes some live drums in there as well, but you're telling me it's all samples, which is amazing.
Well, there's samples of live drums. That's the thing. That's why it sounds so lively.
That's amazing. And then, so you record all the tracks. You probably have, I don't know, it sounds like at least the 20 to 30 tracks per, like, especially on the introductory track, but across the board.
I lose count. I just completely lost count. There's a point when I went, wow, this has 10 tracks in it. Now at this point, I don't give a fuck. I lost count.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be 50 for all I care. Watermelon Easter eggs probably 100. Who gives a shit?
Oh, I was gonna talk about watermelon. I'm just like when I said, yeah, let me, if I can play, it'd be amazing, all that sort of fun stuff. And you're like, yeah, I need some rhythm guitar parts and some lead parts, and just give me whatever you got. And I'm like, oh, this is like a really exciting sort of
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, I could. Do you want me to go into how Watermelon Easter Hay came
about?
about?
Yeah, please. Because that's the ending track of the album. Ending track there.
Yeah, it was an ending. Is the ending track, and do you want me to get into like the context and the narrative? There might be some spoilers, but
absolutely,
no,
yeah.
Okay, I'll get into it. Just the narrative significance. So perhaps I should get into. Should we get? Yeah, I guess we should get into the narrative of the album. Actually,
you describe it better than I would ever be able to describe it.
Okay, I'll do the best I can to sum up the album. I don't have the description in front of me, but basically, it's a fictional tale, which is actually about me trying to do this album. There's been a lot of setbacks, bunch of like technical issues, recording equipment malfunctioning, to some drama behind the scenes, me having to cut people from this project, but it came about me trying to get this thing together, which was, I just had a lot of material to go off of, between just trying to, just like other people freaking out over it and not getting along with other people and just having the pressure of putting this thing together. So in the album, it starts off with me meeting Sonic, not Sonic, because Sonic is Sega's character. Sonic is a made-up character, and he just calls himself Sonic to get places. I make that disclaimer in the description. But anyway, I meet up with the Sonic character. His life is in the shitter. He went through a horrible divorce. All of his kids are fucked in the head. He's fucked in the head. So I give him work. I let him be on this album. But then he brings his friends along, which include Filthy Frank and Andy Kaufman. Yes, it's very autistic, as you could tell. The most horrible motley crew imaginable I'm surrounded by. And then throughout the course of the album, it gets even worse. There's a point in the album when Joe Biden passes a hate crime bill banning music and hate speech, and that music is the work of the devil.
Very and Joe's Garage. Very Joe's Garage, or no, 2112 Rush style.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's literally I had the Central Scrutinizer as a character, yes. Where he's the narrator of the story. Yes. Yeah, I have him as a narrator, and excuse me. Yeah. Anyway, I have him as a narrator, and I'm sorry, I'm a little tired. I just got off of work.
It's all good, man.
It's very hard to sum up this. I'm trying to sum up this album. It's not an easy task at all to sum this thing up. But back to Watermelon Easter Hay. You could get the point that this whole thing is a shit show. It's insane. And I actually draw a parallel between myself and Joe from Joe's Garage, in that the music didn't work out. Music was banned. Everything went to shit around him, and I actually made it so I'm dreaming my last imaginary guitar notes over the imaginary instrumentals, over the imaginary vocals, and it's introduced just like Watermelon Easter Hay in Joe's Garage. So
it's fantastic.
I guess one thing that someone could get away from this is that I turned out like Joe, and that the music fucked me over, and that music really was the work of the devil the whole time. Central Scrutiny. Yes,
it's such a good closing track for the album. Like having those big Zappa influences. Like, no, you got some of the early Zappa stuff early on in the album, but finishing off with the Watermelon and Easter Hay track, or at least a parody of it, with this, continuing and like closing off the story. I think it was just a fantastic way to end the album, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah. And plus, like, there's some significance involved because the album definitely, like, the press wasn't exactly good. There's a lot of, like, mishaps, and and plus, like, it was kind of a complete commercial flop. It only sold one copy, and the person was kind enough to leave a comment saying, "Wow, this is terrible. I should point out that wow, this is terrible," and hang it up on my fridge and go to my kids and say, "Hey, look at this, kids. If you pursue music, this is the type of praise you'll be getting.
It's
not
a pretty
a
good
Nobel
thing.
Peace Prize award, not an Emmy or a Grammy. This is what you will get for pursuing actual music. That will
Following
be your
dreams.
reward.
That's it. Following your dreams. This is
Nothing
terrible.
but spite from the people you try to entertain. Nothing but spite and hatred."
Oh, well, I still liked it, so maybe that's just one guy's opinion. You know? What do you at
least a small handful of other talented musicians liked it, and I could live with that.
Nah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Oh, look, I want to always ask this something like I love asking musicians. You know, I'm a guitar player and I love guitar gear and all that sort of stuff. So what is your guitar rig when you're recording? So, you know, what's your guitar, your effect pedals, your amp? And then how do you record the guitar into the computer there?
Well, I have no effect pedals. I use my 10-year-old amp with my 10-year-old Epiphone that's had multiple repairs. And I also have a $200 Stratocaster ripoff. Tagina is the name of the brand, I believe. I don't even know how to pronounce the brand. Some Brazilian guitar. It plays nice.
I think you asked me, it's like, oh, could you play this guitar with this track with like a Stratty sound or a Tally sound? I'm like, oh, I don't have one of those. I just have I mean, I've got a Les Paul and a PRS, and they're sort of my two go-to ones to get me through most of the stuff. I prefer the humbucker sound than anything else. But I'm like, but it's okay. I've got the split coil accessibility.
What the hell is a split coil? PRS? What was that an acronym for? Is that some sort of alt-right podcast group or something?
Oh, absolutely. You should see the SE models of them.
Boy.
Well, the split coil, if you're going to do a mod on the Epiphone, you've got the humbuckers in the Epiphone, I'm just going to assume. And then what it does is it allows it sort of turns off one of the pickups, so it gives you that single coil sound. Very handy.
So you'll just hear the treble or something?
So instead of having that humbucking sound, it has more of a single coil sound, like a Tally sound or anything like that. Super handy.
I'm gonna have to go in the guitar shop and have someone explain that to me and show me samples of this. You know, I'm not very good with guitar gear. I'm very basic. I mean, I've had a lot of the instruments I use I've had for like the better part of a decade.
Yeah. And
I should get more educated about different types of guitars and about effects pedals and whatnot. But
whatever works. It's what I mean. I've been playing live in cover bands for so many years. So for me, it's always been like, okay, I need something that's completely versatile, that's easy to carry around, and effect pedals that I can cover everything from Bon Jovi to Taylor Swift, because that's what people want to hear. So for me, it's like, okay, I'll need an octave pedal on there, and I need a delay, and then suddenly I need some weird flangey pedal to do something weird. But it helps me get the Frank Zappa sound every so often when I want to jam with some mates and all that sort of fun stuff there.
Yeah.
Recording.
Yeah, for my effects, I have most of the effects built in there, just a chorus flange effect. I have, distortion and clean effects on my amplifier. It's pretty old, but it works pretty well. And how I record it is that, all I do is that I wear headphones. So the tracks from the computer doesn't interfere with the microphone.
Yep.
I put the microphone against the amplifier. I stand about 6 feet away from my amp.
Yeah.
Like the CDC recommends, 6 feet away from. Okay, that was a bad joke. Completely taste. Cut that out.
It's all right. Just wear two masks.
Wear two masks. Oh God, there's gonna be a thread on Kiwi Farms. Oh, look at these lolcows making these jokes on the internet. Oh, that's what happens when you associate with Jack Serrera. All those fucking nerds on Kiwi Farms. God.
I had to introduce my
But
co-host
anyway.
to Kiwi Farms, and he was just like, "What the
Oh,
hell
God.
what the hell is the internet?" And I'm like, "Man, he's very top level, just that top level of the internet." And I've been on it here a little bit longer than him, so he's just a bit more, a bit more a top level rather.
He was shocked.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's a bit of a culture shock. Even myself, when I log on there, my gut is just to log back out of there. It's just so filled with filth, and good for them. Everyone has their weird hobbies and niches, but
4chan and Kiwi Farms were banned in Australia for about 2 months. I don't know if you ever knew that, but that was something that happened in Australia.
Was that over the Christchurch shooting?
That was over that shooting, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Amazing.
Because from what I remember, I know that I think Joshua Knoll, the runner of Kiwi Farms, I think he wanted to post videos of Christchurch shooting, and the government wanted them to take it down, and he refused. And there's a big feud over that, and I think he got. Did he get banned or something from I guess he got banned from Australia.
I'm assuming so. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Or his website.
I don't know what happened about. I'm guessing he's not allowed to come to Australia, but obviously the shooting happened in what's it called in New Zealand.
New Zealand, yeah.
But obviously Australia and New Zealand are pretty close, so anything that happens there sort of affects us a little bit in that sort of regard. But yeah, but pretty interesting. I don't know, but it's unbanned now, or maybe I don't know. They just flicked the switch and.
For better or worse, it's unbanned.
It's unbanned, exactly right. Exactly right. So what is next for the Grand Wazoo?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think this album did burn me out a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm considering in the future doing an instrumental album. I'd love to do like a Weather Report or a Miles Davis or even a Hot Rats style jam, like a jam record, and just have like solos and instrumental pieces. But for now, I'm more interested in just writing music for myself and just strengthening my chops. And I'm just interested in just making music for myself for a while. I'm not sure if I will post anything. I don't know if my hiatus will last a few months or a few years, but for right now, I'm thinking about just writing music for myself. But I do plan on coming back. I just don't know when.
That's awesome. I look forward to all the stuff that you're going to be putting out there. But look, I know that you just finished up work. I don't want to keep you too long, but where can people find, obviously, the Dick Show Christmas album and anything else that you've been releasing?
Oh, the Dick Show Christmas album, you can find it on Bandcamp, Apple Music, iTunes, and I believe Spotify.
Oh, fantastic.
The link is, I'm sorry, just one sec. I'm just getting the link up. I just want to mention the link on the show. Yeah. So you can find it on Bandcamp at thegrandwazoo.bandcamp.com, and you can /album/ the Grand Wazoo's Christmas Kalli-Kazoo 2. I'm sure you'll link that in the show, and it's also, like I said, on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, and maybe one other platform. But it got released on a few others where people can check it out.
Amazing. And obviously your social media, how do people get in contact with you if they want to participate in the next crazy music project that you have?
Yeah, of course. So, of course, there's SoundCloud where I posted a lot of the singles. You can find that, the Grand Wazoo 42. And I'm also known as the Grand Wazoo 42 on Instagram. So you can find me on SoundCloud and Instagram, or you can find me as Oreo Sama if you're really interested in my older stuff or want to collab through that entity. There's Oreo-Sama. That's where you can find me on SoundCloud for that account.
That's awesome. Oh, look, Grand Wazoo, thank you so much for coming on the We Only Do One Take podcast. And like I said, cannot wait to see all the new stuff that's going to come out in the future. And it's time for me to go re-listen to that album again.
Yeah, of course.
And let me just wrap it up for all your wanking needs. Make sure you follow us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and we're also on Paypig. Are you on Dick's Paypig as of yet?
I haven't been federated yet. I'll get federated as soon as possible. I got to get on that.
So go get federated at paypig.com, paypig.org, my mistake. And if you'd like to send us some hate mail, a death threat, or a rant, you can record it on your phone and email us at weonlydoonetakePodcast@gmail.com. Grand Wazoo, thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll see you guys next Thursday.